Hello, wholeness, welcome, my dear Silvertree seeds. This is Inner Silvertree here, and I welcome you to Runes of Silvertree. And let's just jump right into it. Blame. It's all your fault. No, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. We all have said that phrase in the space of anger, hurt, pain, the wounds of the heart, right? Blame is a type of energy that when something feels triggered, when something feels injured, when something feels small and inferior, this is usually a reaction, right? Again, back to childhood, when there's a moment where you are, let's say you're with your sibling, and I have two siblings. I have a sister and a brother, and my sister there's a 13-month difference between us, so pretty much we could almost be like twins, really. We're that close in age. And growing up, with a little sister, I was big sister, but it just, our siblings are our first friend, our first best friend. That's our first friendship. Our mother is like our God. Our father is like our God. They tell us that there's a God and that we should be, pray to God. But your parents, you're smaller than them. Everything they do, it's amazing, or it can be scary, But as a child with your sibling is your equal, right? It's your first friend. It's where you learn how to share. It's where you learn how to argue. It's where you learn how to defend yourself. It's where you learn how to, defend them, and to protect yourself, protect them. It's where you learn how to be creative together, where you're bored together. The role of a sibling is very powerful and can be a very beautiful relationship. But let's take a waltz back to memory lane. A moment with your sibling, older, younger, twin, but your sibling, okay? Could be a cousin too, a living cousin, but your sibling, your brother or your sister. And let's just say you're around 12 years old, 13 years old, and no one's around, or mom is preoccupied, dad is preoccupied, and you're in the garage, and the key cards are right there on the counter, and you and your sibling look at each other like, hey, let's tinker around with the car for a little bit. Now one of you's like, I don't really think that's a good idea. And the older sibling's like, or younger sibling, the other sibling's like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Let's have fun. Mom took me on a drive the other day. I know what I'm doing. Right? You're 12. But so you both get in the car. One of you sits in the driver's seat, the other sits in the passenger seat. And you turn on the engine. And when you do this, you're really holding your breath, hoping that your parents, no one heard you. No one heard the engine. No one's hearing the engine run. And then one of you takes your hand and you pull down the, oh my gosh, you pull down to drive. And the car just starts taking off. And you're like, oh no, what do I do? What do I do to stop it? What do I do to stop it? And your sibling's like, hit the brake. I'm like, where's the brake? Oh my God. And pow! You run the vehicle into another vehicle. That other vehicle isn't yours. It doesn't belong to your family. It doesn't belong to you. It doesn't belong to your mom or your dad or your sibling. It belongs to a completely different person that you don't really see very often. A guy that lives across the street that no one really talks to. And then the parents come out, the neighbor across the street's coming out, everyone's really upset. He starts dropping a few F-bombs. You're scared out of your mind. You don't know what to do. And, you know, your parents settle it because they're adults. They know how to settle it. They've been through it before. They know the process. Insurance companies are called. And you find yourself and your siblings sitting on the couch. And your father's so upset he doesn't know what to do or to say. So he doesn't say anything because he's that upset. He doesn't want to do or say the wrong thing. But your mother, no, your mother goes off. Whose bright idea was this? And both of you point at each other. It was her idea. It was her idea. It was your idea. No, it wasn't. It was your idea. Blame, right? And then your mother starts asking questions, telling you this is going to cost us so much money. No more Christmas gifts. You're grounded for until Christmas. I mean, like, it goes on and on and on. But then she says something that gets you. See, one of your siblings gets a better grade. One of your siblings, you or your other sibling, looks a little bit cuter, more approachable. You follow instructions, you follow the rules. You're like the leader. And so she looks at you and she says, this is your fault. This is your fault. You were old enough to know you shouldn't do something like this. It's your fault. Yours. And so you take that wound in because it hurts, because anything that comes from our parents that can harm us, it hurts. And so you're like, oh man, I really messed up. So then you replay the events. You know, you're only 12, you're a kid. You're replaying the events like, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I should have made a better decision. You know, how come I didn't do this better? Why didn't I do this better? You keep, now you internalize that blame and you start the negative self-talk. The voice of blame is just like going ham. It's like, yes, I have a victim. And you bury that down. Skip a couple of years later, you're 14. And let's just say you are multitasking at a job, your first job, okay? You're 14 years old, and they give you the big responsibility of keeping, you're helping someone with selling fruit from their garden. And they tell you at the farmer's market, hey, you're in charge of the money. Make sure you keep your eye on the money. You're like, okay, I got it. But then everything kind of gets hectic, and this is your first gig, and there's some customers that are really rude and some that are really frazzled, some really talkative, and you're doing the best you can. You're collecting all the money. And by the end of the day, all that hard work, the money jar is gone. I swear, like you think to yourself, oh my gosh, I know I put it here. I know I put it there. And the people that gave you the responsibility of the money, they come and approach you and like, okay, we're here to collect today's pay. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, but I misplaced all that money. And then they blame you. They blame you. What do you mean you misplaced it? How can you misplace $200 worth of sales? Who in their right mind would do that? We thought we could trust you. They go off. And you take that wound in again, and that voice has something to eat. Its mouth is hungry. Blame is hungry and it wants to eat it. It wants to gobble it up. And you're sitting there like, man, I really suck. Man, I'm not good with money at all. That's what you tell yourself. That's what the voice of blame tells you. I'm not good at it at all. What am I doing? I'm so stupid. I can't take any responsibility with money. I'm not smart enough. I'm not competent enough. That's blame. That's what blame can do. And I can go on and on and on with examples, but I do and would like to keep these videos between 15 to 30 minutes long. Not as long as I did the other day, but back on track with blame. So when there's internal blame and there's external blame, I want to keep it simple because yesterday I did more research on shame, and there's several layers of blame, and I'm like, oh, or shame, and I'm like, oh my goodness. No, I want to make this a simple approach so that you can recognize the voice of blame within yourself. Okay? And so you have your internal world, and then you have the external world, everything outside of you, out of your mind, physical, mental, emotional, that's all outside of you. So we're told. Okay? We are told that we have our internal world and then our external world, and that the external world dictates our inner world, and we have no power over that. And that's what we're told. Life happens. Life is going to happen to you. You have no control over it. That's what they tell us. That's what we've been trained to believe and to live. And so in your internal world, or in your external world, when you are blamed for doing something, for making a mistake, for causing harm to someone else outside of yourself, it's a window to guilt, right? You feel guilty about it, okay? But again, that external, when it comes from someone else, you go through like this weird spiral of disappointment. When someone's disappointed in you, when someone is angry at you, when someone is angry and disappointed, that opens up this portal of just this the voice of blame has a way to eat. Okay, the mouth of the beast is hungry. Okay, when that beast enters into your center, into your heart center, into the core of your being as a human, it can eat you from the inside out. Okay, the internal blame that most of us suffer with is when you're blaming yourself for things that have happened that you had no control over, and we blame ourselves for things that we had control over, and then we blame ourselves for things that we had absolutely no control over. And it's a very deep wound. And the reason why we have such a hard time dealing with these 5 wounds of shame, blame, guilt, betrayal, and ignorance is because it is a language and that our conscious mind can't really comprehend. The subconscious mind comes out in all kinds of different ways. It expresses itself in very intricate ways. Dreams, synchronicity, art, creativity, illness. The subconscious is constantly speaking to us. And when we have a beast in us, okay, a very hungry beast, it's like this cycle, right? You think, okay, this is an experience and it's happened to me, I'm gonna move on now, and when it comes to forgiving yourself for doing something, especially in that raw emotion when you're being blamed, it can make you, even now, like when I'm feeling, just moments or seeing people getting blamed for something that they had no control over or that they did have control over, it's a pretty tough experience to go through, because you have to realize, oh man, like I really did mess up. Now what do I do? What could I have done? And then there's some people that won't let that, they won't forgive you. You know, they remind you constantly, this is what you've done, this is what you've done. And you'll try so hard, you know, but you to move on, but you haven't really healed from the inside. So when you do bump into, you know, certain persons outside of yourself in the external world, you're triggered, and they re-trigger you until that the voice of blame is heard, until you sit and you listen to what it has to say. Make it a practice. What does shame have to say? What does blame have to say today? If you're feeling off, right? What does sadness have to say? What is anger? Do I feel any part of me that's angry today? And this is something you don't have to do every single day. This is something you could do once a week or around the moon time, like new moon, full moon. Just tuning in and checking in with your emotional states, because emotion is energy and motion, emotion. Energy and motion, it's supposed to go through cycles. You're supposed to revisit these parts of yourself, and it's part of your personal medicine that we're told, oh, if you take antidepressants, this they'll subdue that voice, these voices, so you don't have to, like, because sometimes it can be so treacherous for people that guilt can impede their daily life, and they enter into a cycle of depression, right? Or anxiety, and it can turn into a neurological disorder where it's a chronic depression and chronic anxiety, where medication and therapy are needed. It can get that bad, and this is why I'm saying, you know, when it comes to energy manipulation or studying the magic of life, before you even touch and get into the whole occultic, new agey crap, very distracting crap, you have to study the basics. You have to enter into the subconscious infinite well of the void within you. We all have it. So forgiving blame, okay, when you're being blamed for something, it's rough, because blame is very connected to guilt, right? And guilt is another thing that is very heavy type of energy, heavier than blame. Blame is like, oh, it's your fault for doing this. And you're like, yeah, it's my fault. It's my fault. It's all my fault. It's all my fault. I can't do anything, you know, and it lowers you down. Okay. So, you know, taking accountability for the F-ups that you have in life, the screw-ups that you have in your life, is very important. When you become aware, when you accept, and you are accountable, for your actions, it no longer has power over you. So saying, I forgive myself for doing this because, that's one exercise I would like you to try. I forgive myself for, you know, ruining my parents' car when I was 12 years old, losing $200 that was entrusted in me, you know, when I was trying to help a friend. You know, make a whole list of things that you have been physically and emotionally, verbally blamed for. Also, things that are outside of your control, you have to let it go. That's something that you have to, I'm not even going to say you have to let it go. You have the power to change and to metamorphosize that experience. Ask that experience, what did it teach you about yourself? rewrite that whole story. Rewrite the story of what happened, where it was an event and it was your fault. Okay? You can even role play. So don't even say I, me. No, you can say you did this and you did that and you did this. I'll make another video when it comes to the power and the magic of letter writing, because when you're able to switch roles, the role of the father, the role of the mother, and the role that you play, and whoever you choose to use for your forgiveness exercise, but we're going to primarily focus on the parents, on the mother and the father. When you're able to step inside their shoes and rewrite the words that they said to you and read them, you can ask yourself questions. Is this true? How did I feel when they said that to me? I mean, rewriting your whole story on the experience can be incredibly transformative. We have the power. We're all natural alchemists. And this is alchemy. To me it is. This is alchemy. Okay? Metamorphosizing the life experiences on our path, I think, is incredibly paramount. You know, I see a lot of beautiful people online like, oh, I'm an atheist, law of attraction, I'm a witch, I'm a warlord, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a guru. Like, no. Before you take any kind of, or make any decision of going down those certain paths, even if you feel the call to, you need to check in with yourself when it comes to blame, shame, guilt, betrayal, and ignorance, and how those things have affected you, and if you carry them within yourself. Because these are going to be major trigger points when we have later discussions on alchemy and how to alchemize energy and stuff like that. This is stuff, this is 101 forgiveness. You have to have that capacity. You have to have that energy in your energy vortex, forgiveness, because without it, you drown. You drown. People are talking about, oh, shadow work, light work, shadow work, light work, shadow work. Label this as shadow work, go ahead, I don't mind, but forgiveness is something where you're able to simultaneously see and experience the roles that are being played and have a very deep understanding of what the importance of each role that was played out in that experience. So this is, again, just food for thought. This isn't anything too stringent. This Saturday I'm going to go into letter writing and how to go about that for shame, blame, guilt, ignorance, and betrayal. I will most certainly do that. So thank you so much for tuning in, and if you would like a personal rune reading from me, visit www.silvertreesounds.com. I will post a rune reading for tomorrow, so please be on the lookout for that. And also this Saturday, if you visit my Sounds of Silvertree YouTube channel, where I post compilations of my music that I have composed over the several months, 6-7 months, please do so. Thank you so much for listening, and take it one step at a time. Okay, you have all the moments in your life to practice and master the art of forgiveness, but this is fundamental for those of you who have dedicated yourself to the path of self-mastery and sovereignty. Okay, and of service. You know, it's more of a challenge to be of service to other people when you don't know your inner voices. You can't distinguish between what is shame, what is blame, what is guilt, what is anger, what is sadness, what is regret. You have to identify these things that are in the dark, that lie within the subconscious mind, so that you can be better at whatever service you are here to share with the world, whether it's energy readings, whether it's a career in medicine, a career in the arts, business, whatever it is. Because you're going to run into people who need help with that. They need help identifying their inner voice, or inner voices really, which this Saturday I'm definitely going to get into the true source of these wounds. But that is all I'll share with you, and wholeness.